how are we doing tonight? So I have the kitty cam set up just for a minute. There's a tail under the box. Oh, they're both under there. They're all three of them are here. Look at the kitties. There's three of them under the box. Uh-oh. We gotta fight. All right, here, let's put the box back. Missy, do you want to be in the box? Maybe. Oh, Bobby's gonna get in the box. Oh, sorry, you got a nice view of Chipper. And there's Bobby. And there's Missy in the back. So they're having fun. Alrighty. Alright, don't look. I'll try to put the camera back so you don't get sick without having to see all the moving around. Okay. They are so fun. I thought I'd share them because they were all in the box together. And now my camera is sideways. It's having problems. All right, sorry guys. This is what I get for trying to give you interactive, fun stuff here. Okay, I'm back. All right, I don't know why I'm down here. Probably because I was down there from last week. I'll put me up there. Alrighty, guys. Let's see. Hi, Laura. Hi, Mina. Hi, Steve. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Vivian. Hello, Kepsahari. I hope I'm saying that right. Welcome. Hello, Mellow Yellow. So glad you guys can be here tonight. All right. I don't see any of that information. It's gone. I don't know why, but oh well. We will carry on. Okay, so I guess I might be a little bit early. Hi, Meta. So I might just wait and let people kind of filter in. You can watch the kitties in the background. I'll move because they're more fun. Hey, guys. Bobby, what you doing? Chipper. Oh, they're having fun. Yes, you are. Now Chipper's in the box. So, yeah, I signed on a little bit early, so I'm just letting everybody kind of come on in and join us. Let's see. So glad that everybody is here tonight. Okay, so we are going to be working on this very unique leprechaun. There was a lot, we had so much conversation last week regarding what the next project would be. We had tons of talk about leprechauns and alligators, crocodiles, and combinations, so it was a lot of fun. I did try to create some images of leprechauns riding alligators, and they were pretty comical, and I didn't think that they would, like, I don't know what kind of a market would be there for if you wanted to resell your artwork later, because I always kind of think about that. I don't know what the market would be for a leprechaun riding an alligator. So we did on Patreon, we did some, like we did a poll. So you guys got to pick from a few different options, which was pretty fun. Anyway, this guy was the one that made it. So here he is in all of his funness. He just looks like the cat that ate the canary. Hi, Barbara. He looks like he's up to so much trouble or has already done trouble or all of the above. So this is what you guys voted for, so let's go for it. This will be a lot of fun tonight. This is the face, the old man face reminds me kind of this project that I did. Finally finished it, guys. It is the Old Man of the Wood. It's like a 2-foot piece of wood. Very cool. And I'll put it down here so you guys can see a little bit better. The hat made of bark was kind of a challenge. That was an interesting texture. but look how his face has kind of some similar creases to the other guy, to the leprechaun. So anyway, the beard took a long time because it covered a lot of area, and there's the bark at the bottom. So anyway, finally finished that one, guys. A lot of fun. And this pattern is now available on Wood Burning University. So if you want to try this pattern, it's there. And I think I also have these really unique pieces of wood on the Amazon storefront. Yes, Mina, thanks. I did do a YouTube short for this on, like a little YouTube short video. So anyway, I think I have that piece of wood on my Amazon store. So it's about 2 feet tall. The surface area to burn is only like 6 or 8 inches, so it's very, very unique. Just check in on the chat, make sure I said hello to everybody. Hi Terry. Thanks, that was a lot of fun. Steve says there's always a market for cartoon type of art. That's really cool. I haven't done much cartoon type style of art, so I didn't really realize that. So that's really cool. Hi Jim. Hi Lisa. Okay, so Lisa has a good question on that pattern. Yes, the pattern was in segments. I have a printer that prints 11 by 17, and that's in the Amazon store as well. But you can see this was my reference photo. And the top part is printed 11 by 17. And then here you can see where I put the seam and then taped it on. So I do that quite often. I will tape larger pieces together just because my printer only goes so far. So as long as you line it up and then be really careful how you tape it, it works just fine. Sometimes in this area where it's doubled up, the papers are doubled up, you have to press a little bit harder to transfer your graphite lines, but that's about it. I would not want to try to piece together a pattern like this anywhere important, like across the face, because if you don't get it just right, it's going to look weird. So the bark hat would be a great place to tie that together. Or this down here. I think the pattern itself that I posted on Wood Burning University is, I think 16.5 inches tall instead of 2 feet. You can make it bigger, but I thought it might be easier for you guys to not have that pattern be so big. That way, if you do have a printer that prints 11 by 17, it will still print as is, and you don't have to kind of tweak it. So I hope that helps answer your question. Just check in. Okay, thanks Mina. She has a link for the piece of wood on the Amazon storefront. Very cool. All right, so I think that we are ready to go. I have my burners set up. The cats have destroyed the living room because they have their toys everywhere. So if you see a mess, it's for the kitties, which is just fine. Hi, Rich. Alrighty, guys. Holy cow, this microphone is really amped up. I just figured that out. So if I'm shouting, I apologize. I didn't realize this microphone was so sensitive. Hang on. There we go. Okay. How's that, guys? Is that a little bit less shouting? Because that microphone was really sensitive. Okay. So yeah, the kitties in the light box, they were so cute. I posted that on the Discord channel. So if you're new and you haven't joined the Discord channel yet, I bet Mina could probably find that link and put it in the chat, which would be uber cool. We have a lot of people in the Discord server now. And it's a great place to just kind of share fun stuff. And I'm really blurry again. Sorry. Okay. That camera should figure itself out. Okay. So let's zoom in. I will probably start like I normally do with the eyes on this one, just because it should work out. Hopefully it works out, and we'll see what we can do. So the first thing that we want to do is kind of buff down those guidelines. I'm going to sand them out a little bit. So here I have one of the M-Jump sanding pads. They're on the Amazon store too. It's $3,500, and I'm just going to lightly sand this guy's face here. To kind of knock down these guidelines. Okay. Okay, no, I'm not shouting, Lisa. Okay, cool. Okay. Vivian says, in May there will be a whole conference at the Sarasota Library on things related to fantasy characters. Cool, they have from comic books to clothing and even people dressed up like the characters. That's really cool, Vivian. Ah, Vivian, you're saying there is a market for these things. I didn't know it either. Barbara tapes her longer patterns together as well. Rich was doing a jig and saw a leprechaun running across the backyard. Cool. Laura, you've taped wider and longer patterns together too. Okay, cool. Yeah, it is a little bit tricky, but you just line everything up. And I usually, when I line everything up, I put like a weight or something heavy on the paper so they won't move while I tape them together. Okay, so I'm going to start with the normal shading point. And let's see what we can do here with his eyes. Let me make sure that my spot focus is good. No. Spot focus. Okay, so now I shouldn't go out of focus for you. Oh, okay. So Mina has the Discord link. Thank you, thank you. And she says it will expire, so it's only good for today. Okay, I did not know that. Barbara, you painted a 10 by 20 inch canvas and had to tape your pattern together for it. Cool. Okay, so Vicky, yeah. Vicky is saying that when she tries to lightly sand over the graphite lines, it puts graphite paper all over. I have noticed that as well. It does kind of smudge it and blend it. It could be related to the type of graphite paper that you use, but I notice it as well, especially with the newer sheets, because you can reuse these sheets again and again. But I use Walnut Hollow graphite paper. They had graphite paper, oh gosh, maybe 10 years ago that I really, really loved. I think it was just maybe a little bit more sensitive. But this still works just fine. They changed it, I think. But anyway, it's big and you can reuse it a lot of times. But the newer the graphite paper is, when you transfer on your guidelines and then you sand it, it will kind of smudge the graphite everywhere. But I find that once you start burning, that it kind of disappears or you don't see it as well. So that's something to keep in mind of. And then another really cool thing that you can use is this Mono Tombow eraser. It's a sanding eraser. It's designed for erasing ink, like ballpoint pen. And you can get in here, let me see where I might want to sand. And you can kind of sand down your guidelines there as well. Let me try it over here. See how it works on this. So that seems to not spread the graphite paper around as bad, or like at all. And I don't think it really damages the surface of the wood either. It looks like just a rubber eraser, but it's made of fine sand. So take a look at the Amazon store. I have this on there as well. I think it comes in a 2-pack. And it's pretty darn cool because even when I have Oh gosh, I was working on this the other day. What? The owl that we were working on last week, some of the areas got a little bit too dark, and I was able to lift, let me see right here, use this to highlight some areas. I was just kind of experimenting to see how it would work, and it turned out really cool. I know that we're a bit overexposed there. No, the other way. Oh, come on. Okay, that's a little bit better. But you can use this same eraser for lightening up areas that got maybe a little bit too dark, and it doesn't really look weird when you look at it. Like if you try to sand it with sanding paper, it looks too weird. So this is really cool. I have not done the live stream for this yet, where we were just going to kind of impromptu live stream and finish that up. It's been a crazy week, so I'm thinking maybe tomorrow night I will try to do the rest of the owl project. So great question. Try this and see how you like it, Vicky. If you have one, go for it. If not, take a look at the Amazon store. Perfect question. But yeah, sometimes it just smears everywhere and it drives me crazy. But I find the more that you wood burn, you don't notice it later. Okay, let's do this. Okay, Steve, you get your graphite paper from Amazon. Okay, cool. Steve says cartoon art sells well at a Comic-Con or a fair where parents have their little kids with them. That's cool. I've never been to a Comic-Con. I don't think there's anything around here for that. Maybe 4 hours away. Like maybe in the Denver area. I bet we do in the Denver area. I avoid Denver like the plague though, guys. Is this zoomed in enough? If not, let me know. So I usually start with the itty bitty pupil center part of the eye. And I'm going to jump over to the other one. I don't really want to fill them in just yet because that wood gets hot and it gets kind of, you get that ghosting overburn. So take your time, bounce back and forth between eye to eye. Allow that wood to cool down before you really push the dark values. Hi, Zona. Cynthia says that you have the eraser and you love it. It does come in a 2-pack. Okay, cool. Lisa, you ordered the walnut hollow graphite paper and you think you pressed too hard. That is a very easy thing to do, is pressing too hard. Oop, wrong way. Especially when it comes to the really new graphite paper, that makes it difficult. After you've used it several times, it kind of takes away a bit of the graphite paper and it's not as critical to not press down so hard. But just take your time and kind of peek underneath the graphite paper to see how dark the lines are as you burn them. Okay, so we have the crazy eyeballs installed, and we're going to lightly burn the outline of the outer part of the eye, the colored part. Try to make your lines as even as you can. See, that one's kind of a little bit wonky. I'll try to fix it as we shade it in. And I'm also trying to burn around the highlights in the eyes. The reason that this project is big, it's 8 inches wide by 11 inches tall, is because I don't think that I could have accurately depicted this any smaller. I mean, as it is, these eyes are pretty hard, as they're pretty tiny. So just nice light values. We don't want to burn anything too dark just yet. All right, up and over. And definitely turn the burner down if that gives you a little bit more control over the temperature. Which I probably ought to do as well. Oh, come on. Usually with portraits, that's that's one of the biggest times that I will turn this down. Oh, come on. So usually I go to where the orange meets the red right there, guys. That gives me a little bit more control over the darker areas. And then I don't have to move quite so quickly. I can kind of take my time a little bit better. Barbara, yes, that is the Tombow Mono Eraser. Oh, Zona, you're trying to listen to the live stream while burning. Wow. The guy frightens you. Yeah, Mina, he's a little bit of a cross between frightening and just mischievous. But I think that's kind of what leprechauns are supposed to be. They're supposed to be a little bit wild and crazy. It's like sometimes he's really smiley and sometimes he's kind of crazy. Lisa, it frightens you too. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, this is a little bit crazy. But this one had the majority of votes, so we'll see it out and give it a go. You know what you could do if you don't like his eyes, like draw in some sunglasses. Just give him some sunglasses. He'll be a cool leprechaun. But he is definitely very caricature-like. Different from what we've burned before. I love his hat. I think that's one of my favorite things. Hi, Estella. Lisa likes the cute and fluffy leprechauns. Yeah. So just kind of darkening up the area above the eyelid or eye. So I was thinking about ways to make him look maybe a little bit more smiley and a little less crazy. So I'll see what I can do with that. So these areas that I'm burning in right now are definitely a little bit lighter. They're not quite dark enough, but I turned the burner down, so this is where we're at. All right, so we're gonna gently and lightly burn around the highlight of the eye. And we have one over here. Okay, so for the colored part of the eye, we're going to burn a little bit darker on the outside. And a little darker on the bottom. Kind of like that. And then we will add just a touch of a light gradient across the top. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try, Mina, to make him look more smiley and less insane, kind of crazy. And yes, Mina, the great part is you can see how to burn fabric and a face. And we also have a white beard in there, which is pretty cool. So white beards, white fur, anything like that is very unique in itself. So we're going to tweak this guy and try to make him look a little bit more charming. He's definitely very mischievous. He's got the crazy eye going on. So, but there is a lot of great textures going on this. He's growing on you, Lisa. Love the hat. I love the hat. He's got smoke coming out of the chimneys on the hat. Vivian, you could possibly change the expression of the eyes as well. I think, I don't know, we need more of a, you know, oh, make him look like, less like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Yes, Terry, the beard could resemble poodle hair. All right. There's a lot of different textures going on here. We have not burned a portrait yet, right, guys? At all? I don't think we've burned a portrait at all. It's kind of crazy that our first portrait is a crazy leprechaun. So I'm going to try to darken up the, I don't know what they are, the creases above the eyes. I'll find a way to make him look more pleasant, I hope. I love his crooked teeth, though. They overlap and they're a little bit crooked. In a way, he kind of reminds me of a family member that has he passed away a few years ago, but he had a very ornery side to him, and something about this reminds me of that family member. Okay, so for the rounded part of the white eyeball, we're going to do very similar to the pupil, this part here, and you can kind of touch it up and make it a little bit darker at the top. I think I will do that. Okay, so remember, for roundedness, we are going to shade on the sides. And this goes for like any eye. So even though he's a little bit wild and crazy, try to take the principles that we're teaching in this one and apply it to any kind of a realistic art. And then we also have some darker areas at the bottom, and then we'll make a gradient upward. Eyes are basically just gradients of different angles. So we'll kind of blend that in a little bit. Wow, his eye is, it's like his eye sunk farther. How did I do that? I'm not sure. Huh. I don't know. We'll keep going here. It's like his eye just got diminished. Maybe because I don't have everything burned around it, so that could be. So same thing, we're darker around the bottom, darker around the edges. And then a slight blending. And it could be that the dark areas aren't dark enough as well. So, Barbara, yeah, there's so many fun textures and shading in this one. Absolutely. Lisa says mine already looks better. Well, thanks. We're just getting started. Terry says you like the chunks taken out of his cheeks. Okay. You told him those were acne scars. I don't know if I was going to put those in or not, because I couldn't really figure it out. It almost looks like he has cheese cheeks. No idea on that one. Or it could be acne, but it looks a little bit different. So I was maybe going to like smooth it out and make his complexion a little bit better. So I don't know. We'll see on that one. Okay. So I'm still going to keep the burner down a little bit. I do need to sand some more. So let's dive in there and sand away. I'm going to use this guy here. Hopefully it's not adding weird. I don't see any weird residue being left behind or anything, so that's pretty cool. This does give you a little bit more control over sanding in tight areas, which is also pretty cool. And usually, guys, I'm really susceptible to any weird smell. Like if I do this and then burn over it and I can smell it, like smell the eraser, I'll let you know. Maybe I shouldn't do that a whole bunch. I like that eraser, that Mono Tombow, because you can go back and lighten up areas, which is pretty darn cool. So I might go back to my little sanding pad here. Okay, let's see what we can do. Okay, so Terry says, leave the spots on the cheeks. Lisa says, leave them out. He's a zombie leprechaun. He's been you guys are funny. Chewing on too many Lucky Charms. All right, let's see what else we can do here. Alrighty. So generally I try to tackle the darkest areas first. Now remember, my burner is turned down a little bit, so it's not going to be as dark as it will be later. We'll have to go over this area again. And then I usually try to work in like zones, topography zones. Think of his face as like a topography map. I don't want to draw on a guideline of a face with straight lines like a street map. Think about a topography map where it has all the different elevation zones. That is more accurate of a face. So when you transfer on your own patterns, really try to focus on that topography zone area. And if you kind of struggle with that concept, we did do kind of a live stream where we talked about how I transfer patterns on. I think it was the wood burning of the hands, the father and child hands that we did. That was some of our first live streams. So I did go over how I pick and choose information to transfer onto the guidelines. So maybe Mina can track down that live stream, and that will give you some great information in the front half of that, because I take you from a blank piece of wood and a reference photo, and I show you how I transfer everything on. Okay. Steve says, do a group of leprechauns line dancing to honky tonk music. That would be fun. Lisa says his expression is because he ate the mushroom. He does look like a little, maybe stoned out. He's definitely high on something, either mischievous nature or mushrooms. So we could have called this mischief mushrooms. So when I was learning how to spell the word mischief, because I spelled it wrong when I was posting this, I had to ask the phone, how do you spell mischievous? And I learned something that I didn't know before. I had always used mischief and mischievous interchangeably with mischievous. I did not know that the word mischievous is not a word. Mischievous with 4 syllables is not how you're supposed to pronounce this. It's pronounced mischievous with 3 syllables. I had no idea. So I learned something new, which is always fun. So we're really developing the creases and the lines in and around his eyes. So I might just kind of go rogue and just start putting all these in. I know some of our initial stuff is not dark enough, but I'm just going to keep going here. And then anytime you get these topography zones where they kind of blend over, try to burn those with a soft edges instead of hard edges. Like we've talked about in the past, hard edges, you really rock the point up. Oh my gosh. And so I have not cut this piece of wood down yet. It's enormous. But I had it and it was available. So soft edges, you rock the point down like this and you're quite flat to the wood. Hard edges are what we would do to like outline the pupil or the center part of the eye. So soft edge, hard edge, just kind of rock down the point as far as how you hold it, or pick a different point that has a softer edge to it in any case. And anyway, hard edge, soft edge. When we burn faces, try to keep, this thing is huge. This is another 2-foot piece. But my cat had a wet butt and she sat on the upper part. Look, so you can see it right there in the glare. Anyway, so there's a wet cat print on here. It's like there's her butt, here's her tail. So I can't really use that right now, so I'm gonna just chop off the bottom part. You say it both ways, Lisa? Yeah, I always did mischievous. I didn't know. I kind of like mischievous a little bit better. Are you more mischievous when you say the word mischievous incorrectly? I don't know, maybe. You guys didn't know that either? Yeah. English language is odd. So yeah, Mina, I did teach you not to outline teeth. So that, now there are exceptions to outlining teeth. We're going to outline them carefully. One thing you don't want to do when you burn teeth is if you have like a nice bright white smile and you put in hard lines around each tooth. You don't want to do that. His mouth is quite dark anyway, so we're going to need to create some separation around the teeth. So there will be a little bit of outlining, but it will all blend into the background. It's not going to stand out really bad. So I'm trying to hit this again and darken it up a wee bit more before I add in some more of the shading. Okie dokie. He's very leprechaun-y. So Rich is asking, will I have the owl in the tree that we just completed available as a print? Probably. I tend to make prints out of a lot of these projects. I got a lot going on right now, so I just haven't even thought about prints, but yeah, probably. Okay, darkening up some of these areas here before we add in some of our darker mid-tones here. So whenever you blend skin, make sure you use a very soft edge, a very flat angle to your point, or a very smooth, rounded wood-burning point. You don't want to use something like that has a really sharp knife edge, because some people out there can probably blend just great with those. I always like catch the edge of that sharp blade and invariably screw up whatever I'm trying to shade. So I opt for the chunkier, more rounded, chubby points for shading instead of the sharp knife-edged points. I hope that makes sense, guys. Zona, what razor tip pen do you think is comparable to the tip that I use? I have a couple, and generally I sand them down or modify them. Probably one of my favorites that I use for the razor tip. I bought this probably 10 years ago. I don't even know if they still have it. I think this is a small round shader, but instead of it having, see how the point, it kind of comes to a little bit more of a point, like this kind of a point instead of a rounded edge. I sanded it just to give it a little bit more of a sharp tip. But I think a comparable one now, I think this is what they call the small round shader. And again, I beveled the edge just so I can get in there and get some of those details kind of laid in. Those are probably two of my favorites. Here's, I think, the medium round shader, and again, I sanded it down and put, oh, there we go. I sanded it and put a beveled edge onto it so it's more spear shaped. I have done an entire project with the knife shader. Anyway, it was difficult because it wants to kind of catch and rock up on the edge, which is very, very sharp. So I would start with the round shaders, either the small or medium round shaders, and go from there. And they are like a horseshoe. They're going to be very round. And so because I'm used to working with something shaped like this, I sanded it on the edges to create a little bit more of a point. I hope that helps, Zona. Mina says the hands for the live streams were finished June 1st. Cool. Thank you. Mina, you struggled with the English language at first because you asked why a particular rule doesn't apply, and the response was just because, yeah, the English language is pretty wonky. But when you're raised with it, you know, you don't really realize it. I can't even imagine trying to learn it as a grown-up or, you know, a grown person or a child or anything. It's pretty wild. So lots and lots of smooth shading, and remember to go back. You can add multiple layers. A lot of skin is just gradients as well. So you can see right in here, we do have it's darker down here and it gets a little bit lighter as it goes up and over. So we're going to add another layer and mimic that. Look at portraits as abstract shapes. Don't try to think, okay, I'm trying to burn, you know, the part above the eye. This is a wonky, well, it's almost like a tongue-shaped piece, and it's darker down here, and it's darker up here at the top. It's a little bit lighter in the middle, and then we blend it out. So I think utilizing abstract thought is the key to realistic wood burning. I know it seems kind of weird and backwards, but that's some of the best ways that I have found to deal with realism, is just break down your little zone into an abstract shape, burn the shape, the right value, how dark it is, and add texture if you need. Is it smooth? Is it rough? And then you kind of step back and it looks okay. So that's the way I've done it. And then burn in layers. That always helps. Smooths everything out a little bit. I'm going to knock down those eyelids so he's not quite so crazy. He's mostly crazy. Okay, so now for the eyelids. They're mostly just kind of a mid-range, a mid-tone. I think they might be getting a little bit darker down here and towards the top. So I do think we're going to need to come back and kind of darken these up a little bit. Some of our darkest areas. And I will definitely probably have to like rotate this piece, but I'm gonna wait until hopefully my husband can cut off the top 18 inches of it. This is a little bit unruly. All right. So let's see. Let's come down below his eyes a little bit. Still focused on these little zones. He reminds me of a pirate right now. But these are great caricature eyes. And we'll blend out a little bit here on the creases. Here's kind of a Y-shaped zone. Now remember, like we've talked in the past, putting in those dark values, this is going to be the more time-consuming stage of everything. So once we get all of our darks in place, and then you go to add in the lights and the lights and the lighter midtones, it definitely progresses a lot faster. It'll look more complete once we add in those lighter midtones. But you can see how I don't really have a lot of hard edges. Everything is pretty pretty soft edged. Even up here where I have where a dark meets the light, I'm not putting in a heavy line like a lot of times we see with wood burning. And I did it when I first started. I wanted to lay in a big dark outline, so we try not to do that, especially with faces. So keep everything as soft, blended, edged as you can to start with. You can always kind of go back and crispen up an edge if you need to, like this. But for the most part, keep everything soft edged. Again, I hope that makes sense. Yeah, this is still pretty light. But it's a great place to start. Kind of outlining some of the eyebrows. He's got all kinds of maybe personal grooming to take care of. It's a little scruffy. It suits him though, with the scruffiness. Everybody's so quiet tonight, guys. So quiet. I will probably turn the burner up here in just a little bit and kind of hit some of these spots again and make them a tad bit darker. Because we're getting a pretty good foundation. He's got quite the big nose, doesn't he? It's very round. But I think this level of Temperature is really good for the majority of the face and the blending, especially anytime you're working in kind of a tight spaces. Turning this burner down is a huge help. I really like my darks to be darker, so I'm going to probably burn the nose here, and then I'll turn this back up, and we will work on touching up some of those darks, making them darker, and that makes everything else just pop. So we have a nice soft edge down here, and then this crescent, you see there's a crescent shape right here where it's darker at the bottom, and then it gradually gets lighter at the top as a nice gradient. So again, using an abstract thought process to a realistic feature. So I'm starting at the bottom and then flicking upwards, and that gives me a pretty good seamless gradient. But you're still going to want to add multiple layers to that. And darkening up at the bottom. His nose looks lopsided. We'll add this in here and kind of balance it out. That's a bit more rounded. Oh, guys, he makes me laugh. You guys are all glued. Okay, cool. Zona, you're shopping for razor tip pens. I love shopping for art supplies. It's one of the reasons, like, I never seem to make money. Because I always put it back into more supplies or more wood or upgrading equipment. Okay, so I'm going to turn this up. Sorry, I'm distracted. The thought of buying more art supplies, guys, is very distracting because it's so fun. I love the possibilities. Okay, so we're going to turn this sucker back up right there. Tape it down. So it's going to take a few minutes for it to warm up to its optimal temperature. But we can still kind of keep tweaking and modifying stuff as we go. So I don't usually have a lot of downtime waiting for points to warm up or cool down. I just kind of switch from one spot on the project to another, and I hope you guys can still see his eyebrows. Okay. But I just bounce around from spot to spot to try to keep moving. So I don't usually have a lot of downtime. But it is important to get up, stretch your legs, pet the cat, go to the bathroom, etc. It's not good to sit too long, guys. So just kind of throwing in a few outlines here on his eyebrows. They're magnificent eyebrows. So anytime you have hair or beard or fur, look for these little inverted V shapes here. Right now they're kind of sideways V's, but look for these V shapes. Those are great to put in for hair, fur, eyebrows, whiskers, you name it. Not really whiskers, but you get my drift. Vivian, you're getting all the information to use on the portrait. Awesome. Speaking of equipment, any word from Walnut Hollow? Yes, I did finally make contact with Walnut Hollow regarding the Pro Point. It seems like they had some, and I wondered if this was the case, they had some people that maybe moved on to a different employer, so they had some rearranging of their employees, and I think the person that I was dealing with is no longer there. So I've given them the information again, and we're back in talks and all that, but I think that's what the delay in response was, that they just had some rearranging of employees. So great people, great company, and I look forward to any more information from them. So they are going to talk about the Pro Point with some of their new people that are working there, and we will try to make a plan either for them to do something, or I told them, you know, if it doesn't work out, just let me know and I'll try to do something else and get it to you guys one way or another. So, because the Pro Point is awesome. I'll definitely use it on this this project as well. So that is that. Yeah, it took me a couple times to contact them because my emails weren't getting through because the people no longer work there, etc. So it's all good. Okay. All right, we are going to hit these dark creases a little bit more and richen them up a tad. One of my favorite things to do is really push these values, push the midtones to the darker midtones. I think it really makes the wood burning pop and gives you a sense of depth that is hard to achieve without actively, intentionally focused on making these areas darker. And it took me a while to do that. I'm like, okay, I have to push these areas darker. I'm just not getting the dynamic shading that I'm after. So take the time to go back and see how I can just like do this eye here, and then you'll see how this one is not as doesn't have as much depth to it. Don't be afraid to go dark, but go dark in a controlled manner. Don't just fire up your burner, especially the razor tip or a wire tip burner, to the max heat setting and just start carving. It's almost a carving motion because you're digging into the wood. Don't just carve into the wood these super, super dark lines. If you want to try for like a realistic portrait or a realistic kind of nature, if you like the heavy texture, go for it. But it is going to be a little bit more difficult to achieve a realistic feel if you have a heavy hand and gouge into the wood on the max temp setting. And I did it too. I bent points. I was impatient when I first started. I completely ruined a shading point and I turned it into a banana because I'm like, come on, let's go faster. And it didn't work. So I dented the wood. I damaged the burner. I think I even damaged the threads on the burner and had to get a new one. So lighter handed pressure for realism. Okay, so see how we have a lot more depth in that eye now. And that's the eye on the lighter side of the face. Because I think like the angle of the light is coming from over here. So once again, we're just going to touch this up a little bit, make it darker. Vivian, 2 places you can't take you: art supply stores and hardware stores. Oh man, I'm right there with you. Thanks guys for being spellbound, Barbara. Pet stores. Oh, you guys are awesome. Lisa says they should hire me and call it the Minisa point. Oh, you guys are sweet. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I hope it happens too. The last that I heard from the person that's no longer there was that they were pretty confident that they could mass produce it, but we shall see. I just don't know. If not, I guess I'll have to painstakingly ruin a lot of shading points to try to get you guys some good ones. Hi Rachel, hi Michael. Glad you can be here. You tend to stick with 425 at the razor tip. Cool. I've noticed also that it depends on the point. Some of the thinner points, they even at the same dial setting, the thinner, smaller points can get a lot hotter than some of the chunkier points. So it does depend on what point that you're using, but it's nice that you keep kind of a consistent meter on your heat setting. And that is one of the kickers and the frustrations with the Walnut Hollow Versatool that I'm using, is that it doesn't get near as hot as the razor tip. Although with that Pro Point, it can still put down some really nice dark values. So, and for those of you that might be new, this is the Pro Point that I'm talking about. It's the it's my creation that I came up with. It's this same shading point, but ground down into a tiny little version of itself. And it holds the heat like you can't believe. I'll probably use that for the shadowy edge of his hat. That will work quite well. It covers a lot of ground of darker value quite quickly, which is an asset, I believe. But for these lighter values, I still love the shading point. It's just so soft and smooth and can create these shading zones like butter. Especially if you have an older point that's worn down. If you get a new one from the box, hit it with some really fine grit sandpaper, because sometimes there's sharp edges or burrs that just come from the factory that you'll want to kind of knock down and make sure that they don't catch on your wood. So sanding is your friend when it comes to these brass points. Just makes them so much softer. Oh, hi Bobby. How are you? All right, so we've darkened up his eyes on both sides quite a bit. Let's see what we can do. We can do that here as well. Oh, we get lots of chatting going on here. I love it. No, Bobby, you guys stay down. Just checking on the chat here, guys. If I look zoned out, I'm reading to make sure that I don't miss any questions here. I love that you guys are just visiting. That's fantastic. Okay, great. Alrighty, here we go. So he's already, the wood burning, I think, has come to life. The insanity has arrived with this fellow. Okay, so we're just going to continue to develop some of these shaded zones around the eye region. I really want to kind of get the face installed and burned tonight. Okay. Let me see if I can. I bet I can. I love his hat, guys. I'm so excited to burn the hat. It's one of my favorite parts of this project. All right. Anytime you have a bigger project, your reference photo is going to look like garbage when you're done. Because I fold and fold and fold and fold. Okay, I want to see the eyebrow region on his noggin. And I'm going to move me out of the way over there. Okay. So I'm going to start in this kind of triangular area here and make that a bit darker. I will probably, let's switch over to the Pro Point so you guys can see how that works. I love his hat, Laura. Absolutely. Yes, Zona, Pyro books are awesome. Self-plug here, but I have 2 wood burning books out, Zona. I think we've talked about that, but anyway, I have a couple wood burning books out too, if that helps. So they are on pretty much everywhere. Wood Burning University. They're also on MinisaPyrography.com and the Amazon store. So yeah, I love books. I am a book fanatic. I have so many. All right, so this point burns pretty dark pretty quickly. So it's easy to lay down a lot of darker areas. You have them both. Okay, I thought so, Zona. All right, well, anybody else, if you're looking for a wood burning book or two, I have a couple of them out. One is based for beginners, and one is more realistic wildlife. So even though I'm burning cross grain, which is kind of hard to shade, this little Pro Point does a pretty good job of it. Remember we used to call it the baby shader in the beginning. This was the baby shader. That was the main shader. I'm like, I don't think we can really market the baby shader. So we're like, how about Pro Point? If Walnut Hollow makes it, I don't know what they'll call it. So okay, so we're laying in some dark values pretty quickly here. And generally, anytime that I work around a light subject or I'm going to burn a light subject, I like to burn around it first. But look at how this thing transfers the heat. It's just a little beast. I love it. Now, I am outlining here, guys, but look above. Look where this area is going to be. It's going to be very, very dark. So when I outline aggressively, I make sure that it's going to blend into an area and it's not going to really stand out. So this is an exception to the rule where I say realism, don't outline unless you can hide it with value or texture, and then you will be fine. He looks so funny. Okay. So then we would just start laying in some of the darker areas here. I'm not going to do the whole upper part of his hat. I'm just going to kind of darken the area around where I'm working so it looks a little bit more natural. See, as I come down here, it's not as dark, so I'm not going to be as aggressive with my outlining. Thank you, Mina, for posting the book titles. Vivian says you have the Walnut Hollow machine that has the 4-wire tips. Okay, cool. And since it's a small machine, you can take it anywhere, but it doesn't heat too much. Really, I have one and I have never got it out of the box. I've had it for years. Again, I tend to take on, I think, more projects than I can handle. So that's why I haven't got to that yet. I'll get out of the way here in a sec. Okay, so see how that outline is kind of going to disappear a little bit. Alrighty. Back over to the standard shading point. You had it for a couple years too, Vivian? Yeah. Cynthia, you have the books. That's awesome. I'm glad they're informative. Still, I keep them on my desk and I flip through them quite often. People will ask a question and I'm like, I know I covered this. So sometimes it's easier just to go look at what I wrote and instead of trying to come up with it all over again. So just kind of adding another layer, smoothing this out a bit. putting in a little bit more structure for the eyebrows. I'm jumping around a little bit here, guys, but I'm trying to stay between the hat and the beard. Oh, you guys love the books. Thanks, Vivian. Thanks, Cynthia. Yeah, I refer to them all the time as well. That was I think it took me about a year to put together each book. So, a lot of work to do those books. Holy cow. I got really good at taking pictures with my camera with my left hand. Because I'd be part burning and part taking pictures, so I had to do everything with my left hand. But it was a really neat, interesting experience in getting everything down from your mind into like a cohesive thought. It was a very unique experience. I swore after the first book I would never do another one because it was tough and I was kind of burned out, but I gave it a couple years and then came back and wrote another one. So and I tell you what, if you want to, like, I keep saying like, if you want to really understand your craft, then teaching it, oh my gosh, gives you a completely different perspective. Because for the longest time I would create something with wood burning and it's like I don't even really know how I did it because I didn't focus on it. But then when I had to explain it, it made my mind kind of really focus on what I was doing, which is pretty cool. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is why I do this. And it made it easier. The next time I was creating a wood burning, I remembered, okay, I did XYZ for this kind of texture, and I can repeat that. So it helped me as an artist a lot, just writing that book. Both of them. Okay, so I'm going to start adding some of the fun bit now. And we are going to add some of our nice soft blended gradient areas. So again, I am going to do a little bit of an upward flicking motion. Blow on the point. We want everything to be nice and soft and blended. So this is where the gold is, guys. This is where it's a lot of fun. Thanks, Mina. Thanks, guys. Yeah, there was a lot of work, but I'm so grateful and so glad that they help. Because that's the whole point of it. Okay, so now I'm going to pull downward in a flicking motion to kind of blend some of these other areas here. Try not to lose some of your lighter areas. It's easy to shade it consistent like that, which is fine in the dark areas. It actually needs to be shaded a little bit more. But don't lose some of these little highlights here. These are really important to keep. They will give your burning a lot more depth if you keep some unburned wood in there. You can always go back and add a touch of white colored pencil to draw out some of these highlights as well. Or if you happen to burn it too much, you can hit it with the fancy little eraser, the Mono Tombow eraser. This also kind of blends areas out as well and makes them a little bit softer, which is pretty cool. So don't forget you got this little guy as well. So he has kind of another ridge across the nose. And I forget if I am still on max power. If I am, that's kind of silly. I am. I'm going to turn it back down to where the orange meets the red. That'll make this soft blending go a lot easier. I should have done that. So I'm going to add another layer up here and pull the heat out of this burner, and then I'll finish some of this fine-tuning work down here with the lighter Temp level. Thanks, Zona. This is fun. It is so fun, guys, to see something come to life. Okay, the heat is kind of about out of that. So let's see if we can't blend some more finer, lighter areas. Okay, we're darker at the top and on the side. So skin is all about really soft edges, lots of blending, lower temps, and multiple layers. So you just combine those features and you can really make some nice smooth skin. Another thing is your wood type. If this is basswood, and you can see some of the grain starting to develop through here, but if you try to burn a portrait on a round, like, oh, come here. I don't think you guys have seen this one yet. Little fox. This is a round, and if you try to burn a portrait on a round like this, the grain can really mess with you. Hi, Rachel. Sorry, I'm so glad that you're here tonight. I'm sorry that you didn't get to join us at the beginning, but it's all good, and we're doing fine, and you're welcome to watch the beginning when you can. But we're just talking about doing portraits on rounds versus, these are end cuts. These are, oh gosh, like mid cuts. It's not the right term, but these grains are going to mess with you on a portrait. So wood definitely plays a part as well for creating smooth skin tones. Anything with heavy wood grain like pine, you're probably going to fight, or you'll just really embrace the wood grain and go for it, but it's going to mess with your smooth shading for sure. Okie dokie. So looking at my reference, I can see he's still not quite dark enough in the eyebrows and stuff, like the under eyebrows, but that's okay. It's always a good idea to start off lighter because you can always burn darker. But I've made the mistake of being maybe a little too aggressive and starting out with a really dark value and then trying to chase that value all throughout the piece, and it still looked a little bit off. So start with those lower temps. Lighter shading, and then you can always go darker. Cynthia, yeah, pine is crazy. It's hard to get those dark values. I have struggled so much with pine. When I first started wood burning, I had no idea what kind of wood to use, and so I basically bought whatever was on the shelf at Walmart or Hobby Lobby or Michael's. And I'm like, oh, you know, this piece of wood is really inexpensive. I'm going to get several of them. Well, they were pine, and I still have them downstairs. I started wood burning in 2009, and I still have those pieces of wood because I realized that it was so difficult to burn on. It kind of took the joy out of burning for me. There are some great artists out there that just rock the pine. They do great with it. And they create a lot of work with pine. Realistic stuff, and it's great. I really struggled with it, so I realized that not all wood was created equal for wood burning, and I found basswood, and I just love it so much. I don't usually burn on other types of wood just because I'm kind of spoiled with the basswood. Even cherry, as nice as it is, it's difficult to get those lighter values. It goes dark very easily. It's harder to get those lighter values. So is butternut. Butternut's hard to get those light values. So I would say if you're working on a project with pine or butternut, or not pine, butternut or cherry, go with a project that is a subject that's really dark to begin with, like a black bear or a bison, something that's pretty dark anyway. But if you try to burn a white swan on cherry, it's going to be very frustrating. Or at least it was for me. Okay, so we're cruising here, guys. What time is it? Oof. So Vivian says you're going to be burning a dog portrait on a round. Yeah, I did a like a mother-daughter portrait on an oval round end cut. Oh my gosh, it was a commission. It was a custom order. That's the kind of wood that they wanted. It was very difficult. And the photo was kind of grainy and didn't have a great quality, so it was not my best work, but sometimes that's kind of where you're at. But we do the best that we can. Mina says it already looks like skin. Cool. He's looking a little bit softer. We're kind of sanding off some of those rough edges. Let's do the nose. That nose looks fun. So you can see, hopefully you can see, I do have a little bit of ghosting coming into that nostril. So I need to turn my burner or turn the wood and try to darken up the nose crease without torching the nostril. So we'll see what we can do with that. Bounce her around to a different spot, let that cool. This is pretty dark here. So generally when I burn an area like this nose is mostly, not mostly, but it's a lighter area that kind of pushes forward. I like to create the dark areas around it first because those darker areas help define the main shape. Like in this case, we got to define the shape of the schnoz, the nose. So if we burn around it like this, it will start to take shape. So I find that if I just dive into the nose and try to burn it, I will find it very frustrating without burning around it first. Again, I hope that makes sense, but it helps me to see kind of some of the area, defines the area a little bit better. Ugh. Vivian says pine is pain. Yeah, I've had to boil the sap out of the wood before it would ever take a value. It wouldn't burn. I would just bubble up sap and it would smoke a lot. Michael, you like the radiant pine. What kind is that? That sounds pretty cool. I've also heard that if you get kiln dried pine, it's a dream to burn on. So it might be just the pine that we see in the stores that isn't dried very well. But I've heard that kiln dried pine is wonderful. So if you have a sawmill nearby, you might look for that and see what you think about pine. But the store-bought pine I have really struggled with. It also smokes a lot, so you might want a respirator for that one, and it kind of gunks up your point. But I'll look into that, Michael. That sounds pretty cool. Radiant pine. I don't think I've heard of that one. So I'm darkening up it's almost just the shadow of the nose. We have some fun areas over here. So we have a little bit of a crescent shape here. We're going to be darker at the bottom and then gradient upwards. A little bit more gradient on the outer side of the nostril. Blend it out. Let's make it a little bit darker towards the bottom. And down where the nostril kind of folds over on itself. Cool. So we have a lot of reflected light in here. So the underside of the nose, generally the underside of something is going to be darker, but he's got a lot of reflected light coming up from underneath. So we're going to just add a nice light layer of shading in that spot. Oh. Zona says it's difficult to burn evenly on pine. It triggered your migraines. Oof. Some people have wood allergies to different kinds of wood, so be careful whether it's basswood or pine or cherry. I don't think you should burn on cedar. But anyway, some of them can cause allergies, so keep that in mind as well. Rachel, pine can be challenging. It also has a very yellowy amber tone to it, which is very pretty, but it's different from this, where this is more of like an umber kind of a brown. Pine has almost a golden look to it, which can be pretty cool. But if you try to compare your art with somebody else's and it looks completely different, it might be simply because they're working on a different kind of wood. So keep that in mind as well, because I would get frustrated. I'm like, why does my piece of, why does my project not look like theirs? Mine's all yellow and golden and theirs is just soft brown umber. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So Rachel, you're working on a tabletop. Oof, yeah. Cynthia says you started burning as a little girl using a magnifying glass. That's awesome. Oh, that's cool. I have tried that. That is tough. This is easy compared to magnifying glass burning. And then I had to wear welding glasses because you can blind yourself if you're not careful with a magnifying glass. It's so intense. I had to wear welding glasses to do that. So protect your eyes, definitely. So Zona, you found some of your first wood burnings. Oh, that's awesome. It's great to see your own progression. I agree. Absolutely, Zona. I have one here somewhere. Oh, so I know I've shown this a couple times, but I don't remember, Zona, if you've seen it. I have one of my first wood burnings. I keep it here on my desk just because it's fun. Here you go. This was an aspen round that I cut out of the forest. It was green. I didn't know any better. And I just kind of free-handed this little elk on there with the shading point. And then he didn't show up very well, so I kind of tried to ground around it. So this is one of my very first projects as well. So it's great. Please keep or take pictures of some of your early stuff because it's great to see the growth and the progression. Okay. Checking out. Terry says, did the 2-foot piece of wood fit in your light box to photograph it? Yes. Sideways. So, I don't have my phone. I don't have that either. But anyway, it did fit. The 2-foot piece of wood did fit vertically in the light box, but it created a little bit of a glare because of the black background. So I find that some of my taller pieces, I lay on its side and then try to scoot it back so it's not at an angle and I don't get that glare. So if you try to scoot it back nice and flush, it takes the glare out. But it did fit in the photo box with room to spare. And then you just take the picture and then turn it upright in Photoshop or whatever. So yes, it did fit. And the light box that I used is on the Amazon store. Zona, you love burning on cedar. I love the smell of cedar. But you might look, Zona, some woods have a toxicity level. Ah, gosh, Mina, I know that we've talked about that toxicity chart, and I think we have it in one of our blog posts. But there is a toxicity factor of certain woods, and for some reason, I think that cedar might be on that list. So, Mina, if you can be a sleuth and maybe find that toxicity link, that would be fantastic, because some of these woods, even though you can burn on them, can cause health concerns. So if you love burning on cedar, you might consider using a respirator or burning outside. Oh, she has it. Okay, cool. Mina, you are so fast. Okay, thank you. Everybody take a minute to look at the link that Mina posted regarding the wood toxicity chart. Because there's things that I didn't even know on there. It would be good to bookmark that page. That way, if anybody asks you for a custom order on a certain piece of wood, please reference that toxicity chart to make sure that you're not burning on something that could have potential health challenges. Zona, you have imposter syndrome? Don't we all? I tell you what, that is completely normal to have imposter syndrome. I still deal with it all the time. So much of the time I'm wood burning with you guys, and in the back of my head I'm like, oh my gosh, why did you say that? Or you sound funny, or you know, that train of thought that's not very good. I deal with it all the time. So keep on burning, you'll do great. Just keep learning as you go. Oh, Zona, you do use an RZ mask. Very good. Cool. Thanks, Mita. Yeah, basswood is so simple and gentle and nice, but some people do have allergies to basswood, so keep that in mind. Just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So listen to your body. If you get headaches or migraines or a rash or respiratory issues, you might reconsider that type of wood. No. I completely went out of my line there. Oh gosh, he's just so funny. Okay. Another thing, when you are burning, the direction of your strokes matter. If you're watching here, I am burning this in a big crescent, a curvature motion. That is going to make this rounded nose look more realistic. If I were going to come in here and just go back and forth like a printer, you will see that stroke pattern. So if at all possible, try to match the direction of your strokes with the direction of what it's supposed to be. And that involves turning the wood sometimes. But it definitely gives it a more realistic appearance. Terry, you like it better than the original. You guys are so sweet. Thanks. You say that a lot. Ah, so Zona, you checked the link of toxicity woods and you've burned on a lot of them. Okay. Ah. Yeah, just be careful. And if you have pets that are in your same area, keep that in mind as well. Your pets can be susceptible to the toxic fumes. So can your kids, you know, all of that kind of jazz. So definitely take it very careful, cautious, burn outside, burn with a mask, or just don't burn on that kind of wood if you can help it. Yeah, just be very safe. And above all, don't ever burn over color, stains, dyes, finishes, anything like that. Just don't do it. You do not want to be breathing cadmium yellow or cadmium orange or alizarin crimson. You don't want to be breathing those chemicals. So if you do add color, always make sure it's at the very, very end and you're done burning. That's another reason why I have never burned like on a reclaimed guitar that had a finish or a clear coat to it or a varnish. I don't know, how far do you sand to get rid of the varnish before you burn on it? At what point do you know it's safe to burn on? How many layers of wood does the varnish go down into? And then you burn over what you think is unfinished wood, but there could be still some molecular varnish down under there. I don't know. I find that pretty scary and sketchy, so I don't usually wood burn on stuff like, hey, I have a rifle and I've sanded it down. Can we burn on it? I don't think I'm going to do that. I will probably pass. Some people are more comfortable with that than I am, but something to think about. And if you decide to do that, like reclaimed guitars or violins, they're beautiful. They're beautiful wood burned. I just would err on the side of caution if you decide to do that, to make sure that you take precautions to protect your lungs. So I'm kind of sanding down some of these these little zones around his cheeks here. He's just so funny looking. Every time I look at him, he just makes me smile because he's just ornery. He looks like he just, I don't know, pulled the fire alarm or something bad. Cynthia, I have asthma as well, and so that's generally why I stick with basswood. Okay, so just kind of looking here. I want to finish his cheeks out, so let's try that. Let me put his cheeks and his eyebrows. I don't know if we can get both of those done tonight, but we can sure try. He is so ornery. He's a little bit scary, but I don't know what makes him scary. I think it's maybe his eyes. Maybe if I bring the eyes down, I'll try to think about how to make him look more fun, less scary. All right, let's burn the cheeks and hopefully get to the eyebrows, and we will have accomplished a whole lot tonight. Okay. So again, I like to burn around my subject a little bit, light outline that will disappear into its surrounding. All right. So I think just for the sake of ease, I am not going to burn in his little marks on his cheek. Just to make it go a little bit quicker. You can burn those in if you'd like. I always kind of thought with this picture I would probably not. And that's something that you can do as an artist. Add stuff, remove stuff, whatever you want to make it your own image. So I am still operating this where the orange meets the red. So it is turned down a little bit, the temperature, which is going to make the blending so much easier if your temp is turned down. Make sure you have an old worn down point where you sand it to make it nice and soft. Okay, we have another gradient. It's darker at the bottom and it gets lighter towards the top. This crease needs to be darkened up a little bit more, but I am not going to spend the time on that right now. Cynthia, yeah, I love the basswood too. Very awesome. Zona, you're gonna burn on 3 skateboard decks. Oh my gosh. They have been sanded down to no shine. Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, just so that you know that there is a safety factor there. Do your best to maybe burn outside and wear a mask. And then if you get any migraines or anything like that, you might, I don't know, do something different. Or sand it down some more. It's up to you. But definitely stay safe. He is kind of a hobbit-like. I like it, Barbara. He came out of the ground, and that's why his house is on his hat. He does look very impish. Like a cat, like a kid that just pulled the cat's tail or something. Oh, Barbara says put a shamrock tattoo on his cheek instead of the pockmarks. Vivian says the leprechaun reminds you of a nun you had in 7th grade. Oh my goodness. That is too funny. I mean, I don't know. I just, every time I look at this guy, I just smile. Ornery. That's another fun word to spell. Ornery. Okay. So I'm definitely spending some more time developing these darker values. And then this little highlight here, we'll kind of hit that real fast here in just a minute. The lighter values always go so fast. Okay, and this does need to be a bit darker. So see how much this cheek is more, like it's deeper right there because I just made it darker. Remember that darks push back and lights pull forward. That's why we get this nice little rounded nose. It needs to be darkened up too, but we're definitely getting a good start on this fellow. Okay, so a little bit lighter, blend it out. I'm gonna try to avoid that highlight right there. And so there's your skin texture. It's all just lots of smooth shading, blending, lots of layers. Go slow, low temps, and a smooth, well sanded point. Okay, let's see what we can do on the other cheek. This is going to be a little bit more difficult just because my hand doesn't really go that way. Turn the wood. That will definitely help. But I'll get this piece of wood cut down by next week, and then I can turn it a little bit easier. If you see fuzzballs on your wood burning, don't run them over with your wood burner, because they could be bits of your clothing fibers or something that have dye. And if you run over those little fuzzballs or tidbits, it can transfer the ink from your clothes onto the wood burning. I did that on a portrait of a baby, and the baby had this horrible blue splotch on its face, and that's before I knew about the sanding eraser, and it was pretty sad. So if you see me wiping at the board, that's usually what I'm doing. I see little tidbits or fuzzballs on there. When I had my blue glove, I was constantly leaving blue fibers, and I'd run over it and it would immediately leave a bright blue spot, which is not very cool. Okie dokie. Mina, he is definitely committed to his new skincare routine. I love it. But this is a great kind of intro course to wood burning faces. Now he has so many dips and hollows, and he's very, oh gosh, almost like three-dimensional with his face. You're not going to see that if you do a portrait of little babies, or, well, actually babies, they got roles like this too. But generally portraits are going to be a little bit less severe than this, but you're going to follow the same kind of basics to put in your darks first, keep soft edges, low temps, lots of blending. Multiple layers. Sophie, move. Look out. Good girl. I did not get to the dishes today.
So these are dirty?
Yeah. The next generator run, they need to go.
This one's almost over.
Oh. Well, I will get them tomorrow then. And again, follow the curvature of your subject. It's much more natural for me to sit over here and burn in an arc than it is for me to just kind of block it in like this. You're going to see those stop-start marks. It's going to look a little bit weird. So really try to match the curvature of your subject. And let's see, we've got kind of fill in his lip. His teeth are so funny. Alrighty. Rachel, you have a rabbit. Oh, my daughter would be so jealous. She loves rabbits. Your rabbit is getting through the baby gate. Oh dear. They are nibblers. They'll nibble on everything. We had a rabbit growing up, and it nibbled off all of the buttons on the TV remote and nibbled on power cords and the edges of the walls. He was an ornery little bunny. His name, I think, was Bugs. Okay, let's try to put in the eyebrows and see if we can't kind of make his face a little bit more cohesive before we end tonight. So light hair, fur, beards, anything like that is all about burning around the white fur or hair or eyebrows. There is a lot of value in white things. Just set up a roll of toilet paper in the bright sunshine and take a picture and turn it into grayscale or sepia tone. You will see so many values in that subject. It's kind of a simple subject, and most everybody has a roll of toilet paper. So I did a still life of a roll of toilet paper many years ago for my book, and it's a great way to challenge yourself to see the shadows in something white. There's really no texture, it's just shading. So if you have a roll of toilet paper, take a picture of it and just try to wood burn it sometime. It's a really good study for white subjects. So right now I'm putting in some of the texture before I do too much shading. Definitely sneak up on the white subjects like this. You don't want to go heavy-handed into the white fur zone. Okay, so once we kind of get the direction of those eyebrows, then we can go back over and really start slowing down and increasing the layers, taking our time and putting in some darker values here. Don't forget about those V-shaped patterns, like right here. It's kind of almost spear-shaped. It's a very elongated V, but the V patterns are great for adding in fur texture. Now, the edges here are pretty chunky and not very refined. We can slim or shave those down by pulling the darkness into the light. So you can start off with them nice and chunky, and then you can refine them as you go. And just make them thinner and thinner and thinner. Kind of like that. So they're more wispy and they disappear into the background. So that's coming along pretty well. It needs more layers, but we're getting the kind of the right idea here. Pull the darkness down into the eyebrows. So you cannot take a white area and really pull it into the darkness unless you scratch it out with an awl or a sharp pointy thing. But you can pull the darkness into the light area to create the same effect. So because we burn from dark to light, pull some of this darker area into your eyebrows or your fur, or if it's a poodle, same thing. Pull the darkness into the light and you'll get a lot more detail there all around the edges. Oh, Barbara, you had a bunny that ate your speaker wires. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they nibble on everything. They're so cute though. Vivian says, if you want a white subject, try a big white poodle. You haven't done yours because you're scared of that white fur. Well, the beard is going to act just like that white poodle texture fur. So we'll have fun with that. Whenever you're burning something white, don't focus on the white. Focus on the shadows. I might have to turn this guy. Oh, okay. Let me see what I can do here. This is just kind of a pain. Don't focus on the white. Focus on the shadows within the white. You burn the shadows, you cannot burn the white. So it's so easy, especially if you're a painter, to focus on adding the white on top to create the highlights. But we can't do that really as wood burning artists. We have to burn around the whites. So I don't even see the whites. All I see are the different abstract shapes of the dark. So see the shadows and you will create the lights. About inhaled spit there, guys. Another thing is you might notice that I am using a much more aggressive hard edge. I want nice fine lines for some of the texture here. Then I can go back and rock that point down and make softer edges for the shading. So we need shading and texture. Shading is going to be your soft edges. Texture will be your more hard edges. And then we can pull the darkness into the eyebrows here. Pull the darkness in to make those a little bit more fine-tuning. Barbara says you're trying to get brave enough to do a portrait of your husband with one of the cowboy hats. Ooh, I did a wood burning last year. It was a commission of a gentleman in a white cowboy hat and a white shirt. It was very challenging to push it dark, to push everything dark enough. So You can do it. The toilet paper roll subject would really help you with your white hat because you'll see more of those darker values in there. And I can't tell you how many times I would burn and reburn that hat to darken it up because you would think that with a white hat there's no value, but there is actually a lot of value. You just have to create it sometimes. And that might mean burning darker than what the reference photo looks like and taking some artistic license in there. So again, I'm just pulling the darkness down into the eyebrows to form some of those negative shapes of those little wispy hairs, kind of like that. So that's kind of shadowy. So there, you can see some of those itty bitty wispy hairs. You can't put those in, but you can burn around them. So, and that's what you got to do. Just burn around the wispy hairs. Take your time. Make them as wispy as you want. You can change a little bit of the curvature and the structure of them. Whoop, I completely destroyed that one. So I accidentally burned over one of the hairs, so we take an awl or a sharp pointy object. I can find it right here. So I know I just have my awl over here. Oh, there it is. So if you do happen to make that mistake like I just did, and I just completely burned one of those fine hairs, just take something pointy and let's draw it back in. And if you're a little bit unsure as far as how to burn around the white, do the best you can, and then you can do some fine tuning with an awl or a razor blade. Just be careful. There's X-Acto knife, like they have a handle, and there's like tape goobies on this, but same thing, you can use that upper point. Mine's kind of broke off. It's usually more pointy, but you can take that and start pulling in some highlights there as well. So if you do make a mistake, don't forget that, that these can be helpful. Some people will actually indent the wood with something like this first and then burn over it. That's a really cool texture. Good night, Beverly. Thanks for being here tonight. So don't forget that you can indent the wood and then burn around it. So that's fun to experiment with. I would do that on a scrap piece of wood first, but that can be pretty cool as well. All right, guys. So his eyebrows need maybe a touch more shading, and then we'll kind of zoom out and take a look at everything and see what we're doing here.
So enjoy your weekend. We're still going to go to town either Sunday or Sunday. Depends on how much snow we wake up to on Saturday and how that comes out. But we're going to go down.
So, okay, there's a little bit more shading in there. That shading will take the eyebrows from bristle brushes, like really coarse, to a little bit more softed and blended. And we'll do the same thing down with the beard. Texture and shading just go hand in hand, so you really need to balance those out as best as we can. So let's zoom out here and take a look at Mr. Mischief. And I will refocus. Okay, so this is actually looking pretty good. I think it turned out really well tonight. I pretty much did what I had hoped to get done tonight, and that was the main meat of the wood burning, and that's always the eyes. If the eyes just don't work out, you might be better off. If you can't fix it, just start over. I've had to do that before, and it's totally fine. Sometimes it just doesn't work, and it just is frustrating, but you do the best you can, And if the eyes don't work out, then you can take your time and, well, save a lot of time by not burning everything else. And you do the eyes last, and then they don't work out. So, good night, Rich. All right. He looks, I don't know, he looks a little bit more happy than Freaky over there. I'll try to find a way to make him look more pleasant. So, thank you so much, guys, for being here tonight. I will be back next week. I think we're still going to stick with Thursdays for right now. I don't think I can think of anything else that you need to know or whatnot. Oh, it's the first of the month. I will be putting out the new Patreon codes for Patreon tomorrow. So don't forget to look for that. You can get a discount on all the patterns over at Wood Burning University. So I will do that. All right. So far, so good, Mina. So far, so good. That's the battle cry. Alrighty. All right. Have a great night, and I will see you next week. Good night.